How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
My fellow Americans, we are only a few hours left until polls close, or begin to close across the country. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. It is Election Day across America. I wanna break this down for you before I get into your calls. I'll do this real quick, but give you the lay of the land so what you know what's going to happen. And again, if you text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, get my show notes email, and you can see it is my big top post today. I pinned it to the home page so you can see it. It says the show notes, no news till polls close, but here's what's going to happen. At 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time tonight, 60 electoral college votes will be up for grabs as polls close in Georgia with 16, Indiana with 11, Kentucky with 8, South Carolina with 9, Vermont with 3, and Virginia with 13. Now, Indiana and Kentucky technically begin to close at 6 p.m., but the states are divided between time zones, so you won't actually get a sense of what's happening until after 7 o'clock p.m. when all the polls in both states are closed. Georgia's the one big battleground that's up for grabs at 7 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, you'll kind of know where Georgia's trending because the early votes and absentees will be processed. At 7:30 p.m., 37 electoral college votes are up for grabs, including North Carolina's 16, along with Ohio's 17 and West Virginia's 4. At 8 o'clock, 171 electoral college votes are up for grabs, including Pennsylvania's 19, as well as Alabama's 9, Connecticut's 7, Delaware's 3, D.C.'s 3, Florida's 30, Illinois' 19, Maine's 4, Maryland's 10, Massachusetts' 11, Missouri's 10, New Hampshire's 4, New Jersey's 14, Oklahoma's 7, Rhode Island's 4, and Tennessee's 11. Now, Tennessee and Florida are split between time zones, so their polls actually close at 7 p.m., but they've also got some areas that are in the central time zone that close at 7 p.m. Central, which makes it 8 p.m. Eastern. We won't start getting analyses of Florida and Tennessee along with the rest of these states until after 8 p.m. Eastern. At 8:30, there are 6 electoral college votes up for grabs when Arkansas closes. At 9 p.m. Eastern, there's 163 electoral college votes up for grabs, including the battlegrounds of Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Arizona has 11. Colorado has 10, Iowa has 6, Kansas has 6, Louisiana has 8, Michigan has 15, Minnesota 10, North Dakota 3, Nebraska 5, New Mexico 5, New York 28, South Dakota 3, Texas 40, Wisconsin 10, and Wyoming 3. It's all downhill from there. At 10 p.m. Eastern Time, there are 16 electoral college votes up for grabs. When the last of the swing states closes, Nevada with 6, along with Montana, which has 4, and Utah, which has 6 electoral college votes. 78 electoral college votes are up for grabs at 11 p.m. Eastern Time when polls close in California with 54, Idaho with 4, Oregon with 8, and Washington with 12. At midnight, the day after the election, November 6th, midnight, November 6th, there are 4 electoral college votes up for grabs when Hawaii closes. And at 1 a.m. Eastern Time on November 6th, my dad's birthday, 3 electoral college votes are up for grabs when Alaska closes. Alaska's are the last polls to close of the 50 states. Now, there are also Senate seats at stake. There are Senate races In Arizona, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Indiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, 2 in Nebraska, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. There are 2 in Nebraska, because Deb Fischer is the Class 2 senator. And Pete Ricketts is Class 1. Class 1 had their election 2 years ago, but then Ben Sasse of Nebraska stepped aside. And Ben Sasse decided to become the president of the University of Florida. Pete Ricketts was appointed in his place to be the senator, and he's got to now stand to serve out the rest of Ben Sasse's term. So it's a special election. Otherwise, there are 33, including California, which is an open seat because of the death of Dianne Feinstein. In Arizona, Kari Lake may get across the finish line. My God, if Kari Lake, wow. I didn't see it coming, but the polling has gotten really close. It's an open seat. Kristen Sinema's gone. Ruben Gallego, the Democratic progressive congressman, is running against Kari Lake. In California, Adam Schiff in an open seat is expected to win. Connecticut, Senator Chris Murphy is expected to win re-election. In Delaware, it's an open seat. Lisa Blunt Rochester, Democrat, expected to win. Florida, Rick Scott's expected to hold that Republican seat. In Hawaii, the idiot Mazie Hirono is expected to keep her seat. Indiana's an open Republican seat. Jim Banks is expected to win it. Maine, Angus King, one of the independent Democrats, is up. He's expected to win. In Maryland, it's an open seat. Larry Hogan, the Republican, is not going to win. The Democrat's going to keep that seat. Elizabeth Warren's up for re-election in Massachusetts. She'll win. Michigan is an open seat. It's a Democrat seat. Elise Slotkin's running as a Democrat. Mike Turner is running as a Republican. It is a toss-up. Amy Klobuchar will win re-election in Minnesota. Roger Wicker, the Republican in Mississippi, will win. Josh Hawley will win re-election in Missouri as a Republican. John Tester in Montana is expected to lose to Tim Sheehy. That's a +1 seat for the GOP. Nebraska, Deb Fischer is going to win re-election against the independent Dan Osborne. Pete Ricketts is going to win re-election against Preston Love. Nevada, Jackie Rosen's running against Sam Brown. It's a close race, but it looks like the Democrats are going to hold that one, sadly. New Jersey's an open seat, but Andy Kim, the Democratic congressman, is expected to win. Senator Martin Heinrich is running against Nella Domenici in New Mexico. It's gotten close, but the Democrats are expected to win. Kristen Gillibrand in New York, Democrat's going to win re-election. Kevin Kramer, Republican, North Dakota, is going to win re-election. Sherrod Brown of Ohio looks like he's going to lose to Bernie Moreno, the Republican, today in Ohio. That'll be 2 Republican pickups. That'll give the Republicans a 52-seat Senate majority if he does win along with Tim Sheehy. In Pennsylvania, Bob Casey is running against Dave McCormick, the Republican. It is a complete toss-up. Nobody knows. Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse is expected to win re-election as a Democrat. Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn's going to win re-election as a Republican. Ted Cruz is going to win re-election as a Republican in Texas. Utah's Mitt Romney seat, it's an open race. John Curtis, the Republican, is expected to win. Bernie Sanders is probably going to hold that Democrat independent seat in Vermont. Tim Kaine, the Democrat in Virginia, is expected to win re-election. Maria Cantwell, Democrat in Washington, is expected to win. In West Virginia, it's an open seat. I don't even know who the Democrat is, but Jim Justice, the Republican, is going to win. That's another pickup, +3 Republican pickup. That would get the GOP 52 seats. Yeah, 52 seats there. Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat, might lose to Eric Hovde. That would give the GOP 53 seats. Wyoming, John Barrasso, the Republican, is going to beat Scott Morrow, the Democrat. There are, on the House side, 22 Democratic toss-up seats and 17 Republican toss-up seats. The Republicans have a very slight edge to get to 218. That's what they need. That's the lay of the land for the election. If you want all that information in form you can guide yourself with tonight as the polls close, text ERIC to 33777 and get the show notes. That very first link, click through. You'll see my show notes that I just walked you through with poll closing, all of that is there at the top of the site, so you can have it. Let me go to the phones here. Ellis in Miami Beach, Florida. You're going to be up next. How are you?
Hey, Eric, thanks for everything you do. We finally made it to the finish line. I'm calling regarding China hacking, which we see daily now on the news. And this is one of my biggest concerns as we go into this election. And I think it's concerning that Kamala says that Iran is our largest, our biggest adversary, when in fact it's actually China and the Chinese Communist Party. And you, who, of course, you just reported, they're hacking our phone networks, our internet networks, our power grids. The battle is already being waged. And of course, Biden is asleep. Kamala has no clue. And should she actually win, Mayorkas and Blinken and Lloyd Austin and Sullivan, the same cast of incompetency will still be tormenting our country. And you have to agree, when Donald Trump talks about this being the enemy from within, that's what I believe is the enemy from within. And I think they're doing it because their ideology has more in common with the CCP, which is Marxism, than, of course, what America stands for. So that's why I believe Trump will win. And everyone listening who I know has already voted, but if you haven't voted, that's why it's so important and why it ties into the border and the economy and where our country will head in the next 4 years. And I truthfully, honestly, I do believe that should she win, I think China and the CCP will make their move on Taiwan literally tomorrow.
Okay, I will tell you, I disagree on tomorrow, but yeah, it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen under Trump as well, frankly, because he's kind of said they need to take care of themselves. He's kind of walked that back some now. But yeah, I do think that Kamala Harris and the Democrats put us in greater global jeopardy. We did not see a world on fire when Donald Trump was president last, and the past is the best indicator of the future. What we have for the past Trump administration is a blueprint for the future, which you may not have liked the tweets, but you like the economy and the world not being on fire. If the past is the best indicator of the future, the Biden-Harris administration would move forward saying there's nothing Joe Biden did that she would do differently, which means the world would be on fire with her. It puts us, the United States, in greater jeopardy worldwide. Ella said that is very well said. I am deeply concerned about the Chinese. I am deeply concerned about them. We should be treating them as an enemy. We are in a Cold War with them, and neither party seems willing to be as aggressive as they are. They got to do this. We got to treat them as the enemy. We just have to. All right, Samir, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Quick one. Back in the days, a couple of years ago, we had that Democratic squad going on. And I was just wondering if what's her name, Kerry Lake and Marjorie Greene are reelected, are they going to try to form the Republican squad?
Oh, I think like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and the others in the House, they kind of already are. I think Kerry Lake would probably be with them, although I don't really trust Kerry Lake. She was a Democrat. Now she claims to be a Trump Republican and siding with that. I think if she were to get elected, she would have 6 years and be her own woman. Unlike the House people who have to run every 2 years, they got to keep an identity. I think that we would see a different Kerry Lake in office than what we have seen her on the campaign trail. I find her mendacious. I'm not a fan of Kerry Lake's. Now, I want to be able to take Jeff's phone call when we come back. I want to give him some time. So I'm going to go on, take my commercial time out here. And when we come back, I want to talk to Jeff about these foreign policy issues, particularly China, Russia, and Iran working together. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. It helps when you turn on the microphone here. I started talking and forgot to push the button. I want to take Jeff's phone call. Been waiting super patiently. Jeff, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging on.
Thank you very much, Eric. And a couple of quick things. I'm going to get straight into it. One of the things you said last week was you mentioned Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and South America were coming into South Africa, yeah, and that they were coming into an axis,
mm-hmm.
and China and Russia are in Cuba with Venezuela against the Monroe Doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Myself and a few of my colleagues were former fairly senior members in the different branches, are concerned about the danger of Russia and North Korea getting more involved with Ukraine. Second thing Iran is ramping up its attacks on Israel and is going to increase that area. And then Taiwan, China is going to try to exploit the time between the election and the inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Look, I think what we're seeing the Chinese now think about doing is, instead of a military invasion of Taiwan, basically just strangle them, encircle them, put in a blockade so no one can come to their rescue. And instead of trying to do a direct military conflict with them, which is dangerous, and we're going to have a response, and I don't know that we're capable of it right now, which is a problem.
Right
the Chinese
now,
are also, I mean, there's a story today that we know the Chinese are targeting Guam, and we're going to break down our missile defense system in Guam because of environmental hazards, which is insane.
Well, myself and my colleagues are very, very frightened that this is going to come at a very crippling time for our country. And it's not a good scenario, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah, it's frustrating to me because we've been so obsessed with focusing on the election and stuff, and I've tried to raise these stories. Like, for example, in Guyana, the Venezuelan people held a referendum on invading neighboring Guyana. The Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranian navies are all three there now doing river exercises with the Venezuelans, training them on military river exercises to do this invasion. The North Koreans with the Russians now on the front lines of Ukraine, although I do have to tell you, if you haven't seen this, there's a report out today. The North Koreans have never seen the internet before. And you will not believe what the men from North Korea who have lived in North Korea without the internet, what they've discovered on the internet and can't get enough of. And apparently in a live fire exercise today, killed a bunch of Russian comrades because they didn't know how to properly hold the guns, which is kind of, this is actually, by the way, documented stuff.
There's also a language barrier there.
Yes.
But the other part, and the more critical part, is the Sahel.
Yes. Yeah. And, look, Jeff, I got to let you go there because I got a commercial break here. But I think I'm the only guy in conservative radio that's been talking about the Sahel. We have abandoned that. The Russians have put Wagner Group in, had a series of coups, and now the Islamic radicals are taking back over the place. It's insane. All of this geopolitical turmoil and the turmoil of this country with banks and everything else is playing into what Swiss America has been warning people about, the secret war on cash. The government is trying to track how you spend cash, and they've placed things into our currency to be able to tie spending to you, so you can't make anonymized purchases like you want to. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war on cash, you need to listen. You need to get their free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets. In their report, The Secret War on Cash, it takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save you on your retirement and finances. You get a free copy by calling or texting my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The All-Out War on Cash includes digital forms of currency. You can't hide from Uncle Sam, but find out how Swiss America can help you by calling or texting my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. One more time, 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. My fellow Americans, here's the deal. I got 30 more minutes here, and then I get a break for several hours. And then I'm doing radio on my flagship station and WDBO down in Orlando from 6 to 8. Then at 8:30, I'm doing radio on WTIC up in Hartford, Connecticut. Then at 9:15, I will be on News Nation with Leland Vittert. And then I got to do some radio hits out in Las Vegas, and it's going to be a long night. I'm going to tell you again, one more time. If you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can see my show notes today. I've got it. It is at the top of the site, ewerickson.substack.com. And it is your deep dive into the election today. What time the polls close in each state, how many electoral college votes are up for grabs, who's up in the Senate, what races there are, what are the toss-ups, what are the lean Republican, what are the lean Democrat, what are the swing races in the House of Representatives. All that stuff is in that email. for you to do your deep dive on the election. We didn't put other news in today because I know nobody cares about the other stuff, but I do. So we talked about it. Jeff mentioned the Sahel, and I think I'm the only guy in talk radio who's talking about this because it's a very big issue. The Sahel is that broad swath of land that merges with the Sahara in West Africa and moves across the continent. The Islamic radicals have been taking over those areas, and the United States has set up a series of military installations. But the Wagner group from the Russians, once they were thrown out of Ukraine, the Russians, Vladimir Putin, sent them to some of these countries, Niger being first and foremost among them, launched a series of coups. Those coups were successful, and the local regimes have thrown the American military out. This is not to set up a Russian sphere of influence, you've got to understand. This is to distract the United States from helping Ukraine. If we're bogged down in the Sahel, we can't help Ukraine, and the Russians win either way. The Russians don't care about Islamic radicals being fomented in the Sahel because they know that they'd come after us before they came after them. It is a dangerous situation, and this administration, the Biden administration, has had no credible, real response to what the Russians are doing in the Sahel. Now, to the phones we go, 877-973-7425. JT, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show.
Afternoon, Eric. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Happy Election Day. I guess I'm following right behind you, hot as usual, with the foreign policy and aspect of the current, things going on in the world. And I heard a report, I think yesterday, and it's probably gone all the way back to last year, that foreign leaders are already calling Trump probably right now. So that may be a sign, Eric. I believe he's going to win. The question is by how much. So I'm looking at Trump winning north of 270. If he gets to 300, I'd be surprised. But I think with the world leaders calling him, as I was telling your call screen, I think they're basically doing this. We're going to get our things tied in order, and as soon as you get in the office, let's get the ball running and rolling. We're all on the same page. So I think it's going to be funny, Eric, not just how the left sees it when Harris loses, but what are the world's going to think of that, when Trump wins? Because you already know the axis, China, North Korea, Russia, they should be back on their heels. They should back off. But the rest of the world,
right,
how they would see it.
Yeah, and look, the Russians, the FBI is now confirming there are bomb threats at polling locations in several states. They've come from Russian email domains. The Democrats, of course, look at this and say, the Russians want Trump to win. That's not really true. The Russians want chaos in this country, as do the Chinese. They want to disrupt us and have us at each other's throats. And I need everybody to understand this. Regardless of the outcome today, if you're grabbing hold of the conspiracy theories about stolen elections and whatnot, doing that sort of stuff, you are helping the Chinese and the Russians. I don't care who you vote for. But if you're out there saying, my guy lost, it was stolen, here's my video proof I got from social media, that could have been conjured by the Chinese and the Russians. It absolutely could have been. And they want us at each other's throats. They want us divided. They want us to hate each other because they think if we're distracted, they can win, which should tell you why we shouldn't be distracted. Now, I do think that Trump has the edge. I think he's got probably 286 electoral college votes, maybe a little less than that, 282 maybe. I think the fact that the Democrats are still in the Philadelphia suburbs knocking on doors at 2:40 p.m. Yeah. I mean, listen, this from being up there. If the Democrats are knocking on your door at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Election Day, there's a problem.
Yes, it is. And one more thing, Eric, I'll make a little quick history on your show. I know your son did impressions. I can't do a Harris, but I think I can do an Obama and your native Louisiana Tyler Perry Magia. So I'm just going to be quick with it.
All right.
Let's see here.
Be careful.
Okay, I will. Barack, how you doing? How you doing, babe? How you doing? I just want to talk to you about your girl Kamala. What's she going on Fox News for? I ought to punch her in the face. They right wing. They don't like her. So she want to win the election or not? Now, what you tell Kamala to do is get the free weed for my cataracts. Get the free weed for my cataracts, and I should get my vote.
JT, you're going to get me hate mail. Look, I appreciate you calling in and your support for Trump. God bless you, and being down here from up in Philly. To the point he and I were talking about, that on the serious note, not the impression. If the Democrats are in the Philadelphia, and by the way, this I'm not making this up, this is happening. The Democrats are in the Philly suburbs knocking on doors. It's 2:41 p.m. Eastern time on Election Day. That's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I do, my gut says, looking at the early voting and the Election Day cannibalized vote that has turned out, all the people who would normally vote on Election Day but has moved to early voting, y'all, it does seem to me to be a Trump election. I'm going to tell you, though, no, I don't believe it was stolen if he loses. And the fact that so many of you are already seizing on videos that are willfully distorted, edited, made up, not true, to say it was stolen is a terrible sign for your own psychology right now. If Donald Trump lost, I'll tell you why he lost, because the last week he got off message in what everyone said was going to be a close election. I know if your side loses, though, these days it's easier to say it was stolen than to admit you picked a bad candidate. Whichever side it is, Kamala Harris is a terrible candidate, too. That's why I think Kamala Harris is going to lose. Because economically, the country is on the wrong track, most people think. The president of the United States is the most unpopular president since Jimmy Carter, and she's tied to him. Immigration is the number 2 issue behind the economy. Crime is the number 3 issue behind immigration. Donald Trump beats her on all those things. This should be an election that is a referendum on the incumbent party of the United States, which, again, is why I think Trump has an advantage here. But no, I'm not. And the reason I'm not going to rush to it was stolen is because so many of you have been so willing to go there before the very first vote was cast. I know a guy on social media, and he was putting up back in September that Donald Trump is going to win or it was stolen. Back in September, he was putting up Donald Trump's going to win or it was stolen. That's dogma. That is the refs cheated me. That is my team would win the championship except for the refs. That's not rational or reasonable. It's what partisans do these days. But I don't think Republicans are going to have to worry about that. I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong. It's just what I find notable. The Kamala Harris team is out kind of puffing themselves up. Oh, I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to win, blah, blah, blah. But you don't hear a lot of Democrats out there today doing that. But you hear a lot of Republican pundits out there already saying, look, I think it's going to be close, but I think he's going to win. I think he's going to get over 270. I think he's going to win Pennsylvania. And that strikes me in the final day when you see this, that Republicans have a level of confidence the Democrats don't have. Now, things can go wrong. The Philly suburbs could turn out. It could be that women actually are voting, saying they're voting Republican, telling pollsters they're voting Republican, but they're actually voting overwhelmingly for Democrats. That is something that could be happening. There could be people lying. But I also think that white progressive women want the pollsters to know they're voting. White progressive women demand that everyone know who they're voting for, and they're trying to shame you into voting for Harris. It is, at the end of the day, it's remarkable to me the number of people who are trying to shame you and bully you into voting for Kamala Harris. The lecturing left on MSNBC and even on CNN insisting that you got to vote for him. But, this is a conversation over at CNN happening now. They're interviewing voters in Arizona. Listen to the part of this.
You just voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Walk me through why you cast that vote.
Yeah, so just seeing what's been happening in the past 4 years, I voted Democrat the past 4 years, and I'm really disappointed in the administration, how everything has been going.
That's a voter in Arizona where it looks like Donald Trump is going to probably win. I think we're going to have results. I think that Donald Trump has every incentive to win. And I think when you're seeing this meltdown on MSNBC this afternoon, it's kind of I want to say it's kind of a signal they might know what's going on. The Harris campaign was on TV this morning saying they felt very good about the direction that they were seeing. But when you look at the early vote numbers in some of these states, I'm just not sure that's the case. I'm just not sure it is. And when I look at the numbers in North Carolina, when I look at the numbers in Georgia, when I look at the numbers in Nevada right now, I can't tell you who people are voting for, but I can tell you their partisan affiliation. In the Southeast, I can tell you their racial composition. And it looks more like a Republican turnout than a Democratic turnout. But there's one issue you do have to come to terms with. You may not like it, but you got to come to terms with it. And it's this. There are a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump. And so you may have Republicans going to vote and they're not voting for Trump. You may have a lot of people show up and say, I just can't do it. And you got to be careful of that. You got to be careful of that. I would be careful about reading too much into the early voting. As I've said, we can get the trend lines now, though. They look good for the GOP. But it's going to be close. Do not be surprised if the person you don't want to win actually does win. And if you rush to say it's stolen because of it, everyone's going to manufacture the evidence to convince you of what you already believe. But I don't think that's going to matter much at the end of the day, because in 2020, of course, the Trump team said it was stolen and Joe Biden got elected. They can say it's stolen this time, but if Kamala Harris gets the votes, Kamala Harris gets the votes. I don't think she's going to get the votes, though. But it is really, really close. When it's all over, the stench of the election can be consumed with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Y'all, I got to tell you, they've got a new Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And this old one was small. This one's even a little bit smaller. And it just works. And this one generates plasma as well to kill bacteria and viruses, in addition to also getting rid of odors, in addition to getting rid of pet dander, in addition to getting rid of dust, in addition to getting rid of pollen. It packs a wallop. You can hold it in your hand. I just got one of the new ones in, and it is small. I can hold it in my hand. I can plug it up with a USB cord in my car. I can plug it up directly into the wall. It's got a little plug that pops out of it that you can stick into the wall, and it just works. You can get 3 of them, and you can still save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3. You can wipe out odors, pet odors, litter box odors, smoke odors, cigarette odors, frying odors, you name it. You wipe them out. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC, ERICK, and the number 3. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, Anthony, you're going to be the last caller today. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Eric. Hey, how you doing?
Great.
Hey, man, I just got to say this. I listened to Steve Harvey. 2016, Steve Harvey came out and he said, Donald Trump's going to be good. He's going to be good for us. No problem. This week I heard Steve Harvey. He sounded like Biden. I don't know why you guys are going to vote for that man who done all this bad stuff. You must be just like him. I said, I couldn't believe that. I think Steve Harvey caught that flag in 2016, and they said, if you want to be on Family Feud, you say one more nice thing about Donald Trump, you will not be on anything.
You know, I got to say, it is something, particularly I think in the black community, where there is way more pressure to toe a line than, like, I get a ton of blowback and threats and angry calls if I dare criticize Donald Trump. But, man, it is nothing like what people in the black community get, particularly of prominence, to toe a party line and say something like, I mean, Harvey back in 2016. Folks, but to that point, it's going to be okay. I know the election may not go the way you want it to go tonight, but you're going to be fine. Many of you are going to be rushing to lies to explain away why your side lost. You're going to embrace them. You're going to be mad at the truth tellers, but it's going to be fine. In 4 years, we're going to do this all over again. In 4 years, the country will vote again. If you really believe that's not true, if you're wherever you are right now listening to me saying it's not true, you're broken. Something about you has broken that you can't accept the truth. You have allowed yourself to be catechized by those you've surrounded yourself with, angry voices that are there to try to scare you. I'm here to tell you, I think my side wins this election, but I'm going to be fine if they don't, and so will you. They're going to get policies I don't like. My taxes will go up. Education policies in this country, I think, are going to suck. We might get a Supreme Court justice, and we'll definitely get federal court judges we don't like, but we're going to be fine. When you stand before the throne on the final day, God's not going to care who you voted for in 2024. He's going to care how you loved him and loved your neighbor. And if you can't love your neighbor because of your neighbor's vote, you need to work on yourself. You need to do some prayer. If your neighbor can't love you because of how you voted, well, pray about that too. Prayer works. Everything's going to be fine. And if you think it's not going to be fine, if you're mad at me for saying it's fine and you think I'm in denial, well, then instead of just trying to pick a president, try to gut the presidency. Stop trying to pick a strong president and pick someone committed to rolling back the powers of the presidency. If you're in existential terror because of who the president of the United States might be, that should be your sign to rein in the power of the federal government. That should be your sign that the president of the United States has gotten too powerful. It was never meant to be. The founders of this country wanted a chief magistrate. The founders of this country wanted a chief executive officer to carry out the will of Congress, not a dictator. Those of you saying the next president will be a dictator, well, you got the power through Congress to make sure that doesn't happen. Rein in the power of the presidency. Just because you want your president doesn't mean we should have a president who is as powerful as you want that president to be. It's bad for all of us. Commit to keeping the presidency within its proper bounds regardless of who wins, and you'll be fine. We're going to do this all over again in 4 years. We've got a midterm in 2 years. Tomorrow we'll analyze the results. I'll take your phone calls tomorrow and hopefully calm you down. I think the election goes the way I want it, but if it doesn't, we'll be fine. I'm Eric Erickson across the United States, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. The election will be over.